Rain of Troy Hotline.
Alicia, Michael, what's going on?
We know you have takes. We have takes.
I'm actually surprised that your rant line, rave line, whatever, isn't completely full.
Why can't we just win a game?
Can I blame Michael Castillo for this?
Can I blame Bob Connolly for this?
Could I put on a zebra shirt and just go out there? Scratch, claw, up against the wall.
Can't explain it, what I'm feeling right now, guys.
I can't believe it.
Let's open up that race line! Woohoo!
Oh, I can't believe USC is undefeated in the SEC. Wait, we're in the Big Ten. What's our record? Oh, no!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Reddit Radio, episode 599, coming to you on Wednesday, May 21st. We're going to talk about the latest in USC football and go over some superlatives. We've got for our ASMR listeners, we've got some superlatives. USC superlatives written out. We asked some Rotbots for some superlatives as well. We've got those in the bag. We're going to pick some and talk about them here on this episode. As always, you can follow us on social media at Rant of Troy. Email us, rantoftroyfansite.com, and our phone number, 818-643-7227, Second Whisper and Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, joining along with my co-host here in the Rant of Troy studio in Los Angeles, Alicia Derritola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Ron Murray in the chat says, you mean next week is episode number 600? Yeah. Episode number 600.
That's wild. I mean, I still think it's weird that it's 2025. Right? It's 2025?
I was listening to a John Boy podcast yesterday that was going over the all-decade team at the halfway point of the decade.
Oh my God.
That is nuts.
I still live in a universe. Honestly, I don't think I've ever moved out of this frame of mind where David Sills was being offered a scholarship by USC for the class of like 2013.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've moved away from that. So time has stood still for me as far as I'm concerned.
I remember when CJ Gable committed to SC, and if I remember right, it was live on Fox Sports West. If I remember right, remember the studio at Staples Center that was over on the near the corner at the little point of the building,
where you'd have the fans behind.
Yes,
yeah,
they had the studio built in there. There used to be like recruiting shows that would be in there. And I think they had like the curtains closed or something like that sometimes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I that feels like yesterday. And is CJ Gable still playing football in the CFL? I doubt it. He's got to be like 50 now. Not really. We're like the same age.
I think he might still be in the. Hold on, let me see. No, he finished in 2019. Jeez, yeah. Again, he's been out of football for
crazy
6 years.
Absolutely crazy. But no, next week is not technically the 600th. It's the 600th mainline episode.
Sort of
the 600th
official.
Canonical episode. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the 600th canonical episode.
Yeah.
In the same way that, like, when we're talking about Star Wars episode, 1 through 9.
Sure.
In between there is Rogue One, but it's not one of the canonical.
It makes sense that it would be the Rogue One. It wouldn't be.
It's the Rogue One, yeah.
Makes sense. Speaking of things going rogue, let's get to the news really quick before we get into the superlatives, because we got a jam-packed episode that I want to get to. Just hit the news really quick. All right, last week we talked about the SC Notre Dame rivalry and the concerns about it going forward. You went on a 17-minute rant about it.
Was
it was
that
fantastic. Long? Yeah, I believe it was 17 minutes. Go listen to it if you haven't. Download it on your podcast app. Go watch it on YouTube, whatever you do to listen to your episodes. But there's new news about this. Pat Forty our colleague over at SI, reporting on the SC Notre Dame rivalry, has a statement from the Notre Dame athletic director, quote, "I think Southern Cal and Notre Dame should play every year for as long as college football is played. And SC knows how we feel." Knows that that's how we feel. Mm-hmm. Agreed. I think we all agree on that.
No notes, except for it's funny that he said Southern Cal, but I think USC has softened their perspective on that now, so it's less of a thing.
I've heard it was a Tim Tessalone thing. I don't know if that's the case or not. Either way, I hate it. Maybe it's generational. I don't know. I'm not a fan. So, whatever. USC statement. Quote, "We want the USC Notre Dame rivalry to continue, which is why we offered an extension of our agreement." USC Associate Athletic Director Cody Worsham told SI, quote, "It's a special game to our fans and our institution. We will continue to work with Notre Dame on scheduling future games." And according to sources telling SI that the Trojans have apparently broached the idea of moving the game to a season opening spot on the schedule. You and I talked about that last week. I think that's fine. If that's what it takes to keep the rivalry going, then that's what it takes to keep the rivalry going. Plus, I think it would be also fair, from a home game perspective, if the game was in the same time of year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm a little bit torn on this in the sense that I think that having the game later in the year gives it more oomph.
I agree. Yeah.
But the reality is, at this point, any compromise that can be had that keeps the game alive is better than losing the game.
Yeah.
So, I can live certainly with USC Notre Dame being at the front of the schedule. I can live with that perfectly fine if that is the ultimate solution to answering USC's questions while also giving Notre Dame the ability to continue the series. The problem there, and not to go on like another 17-minute rant, the problem there is that Notre Dame likes having USC on the schedule and put USC on the schedule in the first place because they are not in a conference and thus have more difficulty filling slots in October and November while other teams are in conference play.
Right.
So USC asking to move the game to September, I don't think that works in Notre Dame's benefit. Like, if I'm Notre Dame, I'm saying, well, schedule-wise, that is a big problem for us. It really complicates things for us. Yeah. I think USC could respond that for 100 years, USC has allowed its schedule to be complicated by the Notre Dame, by ceding to Notre Dame the late season rivalry setup and not doing this as a traditional out of conference period for this rivalry.
SC's had to give up bye weeks.
Yeah.
Notre Dame doesn't have that at their behest.
Yes. So in that sense, if this is what USC is asking for, I think that Notre Dame, if they truly want to walk the walk and say that this game should be played every year for as long as college football is played, then Notre Dame should give that concession to USC. If that's truly where USC is at, that the logistics and the out of conference difficulties and the giving up a home game every other year, all that kind of stuff. If that's what USC has decided will ease that burden enough to continue the series, then Notre Dame should suck it up and do it. But I don't know. At a certain point, it feels like this is like a dispute between cable operators, and they're just going to play chicken. They're just going to play chicken until somebody blinks. And I don't know when somebody is going to blink. I don't know when there's going to be a situation where, like, what's the deadline? You know, when ESPN and Spectrum are feuding over their rates, the deadline is, 11:59 on New Year's Eve, and then for an hour on January 1st, we all lose ESPN. until they sort it out and then they get a new deal going. Like, I don't know what the deadline for getting this agreed to for next season is, unless it runs straight up into the point at which USC announces the coming 2026 schedule, because apparently, and I didn't realize this, and I still haven't necessarily seen good confirmation of this. I just have to go. I'm just going on Pat Forty's reporting, is that USC and Notre Dame do not currently have an agreement in place to play in 2026. I thought that the series was going through this year and next year, but it seems that might not be the case, and that the 1 year extension that USC had offered was on the table but never fully accepted. So maybe this does come down to the last date at which USC can finalize their schedule with the Big Ten. I don't know what that date is, but it would, at the very least, there is a deadline for them to run up to, and I fully expect them to run up to that deadline, because this is two sides playing chicken, and somebody's going to have to blink. But the fact is that somebody needs to step up and say that this rivalry is more important than this or that. And despite my 17 minutes of ranting last episode, which I still feel very strongly about, and I said at the time, when I rant against USC and being disappointed in USC for treating the rivalry the way that they appear to be treating it right now, that does not mean I'm letting Notre Dame off the hook. Notre Dame is party to all of this. Notre Dame could concede what they need to concede in order to keep the game in place. That is beside the point. I'm not a Notre Dame fan, despite Michael's jokes about me being a Notre Dame grad. I'm a USC fan, and I want to. It's
true. You have a Notre Dame diploma,
and I'm interested in holding USC accountable for USC's actions. I cannot control anybody's actions, but I certainly can't weigh in specifically on what Notre Dame does or doesn't choose to do. Mm-hmm. My hope would be that if USC offers a reasonable middle ground where the rivalry stays, but it moves to September, for the sake of USC scheduling difficulties, especially now that Notre Dame has ACC opponents like Clemson, like their ACC agreement, like Stanford and Cal, that have now joined the ACC, that maybe the necessity of the back end of their schedule of filling those is easier now than it was because of that ACC agreement. But whatever happens, the important thing is just that this gets resolved. And I know that, Josh in the chat says ND needs to grow a pair and just join the Big Ten. The fact of the matter is that that's not what solves this right now. Today, that's not what solves this. Notre Dame is not joining the Big Ten today. It's just not happening. So something else has to come in play.
Yeah, Ingrid Trojan in the chat said that Ryan Abraham was saying just a bit ago that Notre Dame is the one not wanting to continue the rivalry, but it was also stated that SC only offered a year-to-year basis. Not to go on this any longer, but I don't buy that in the slightest, because Notre Dame has not been. This is not just happening this year. This was talked about since Lincoln Riley arrived. So I call bullshit on that. No offense to Ryan, friend of the pod, love him, but I think it's very simple here. I think there's a difference between wanting to end things and wanting to think things on your terms, right? I think ideally both schools are going to want things on their terms. So I think there can be semantics in either direction that you want to play. Look at this. I think you could talk this in any sort of direction and sort of blame the other. It's Notre Dame's fault they're not in conference. It's SC's fault that they're in the Big Ten and now have all this traveling stuff. It's it's the blood's everywhere. The blood's everywhere. All right, let's get to our superlatives. We each have a cup. You have a cup. I have a cup of superlatives. Show everybody your cup of superlatives. We're gonna alternate reaching into the cup and pulling out a superlative. Talk about USC superlatives. So I've got the first one here. Best band song. What do you got?
If I have to if I think it's reasonable to put aside Conquest, to put aside Tusk, because those are the obvious answers.
I would say take out the school songs.
Okay, band song, it's Sing Sing Sing.
Sing 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 is a good pick. I do think you're stealing that from me, because
No,
you know
but-
that's my thing.
No, it has been your thing, but you've made me a believer.
It's
like
great.
every
It's
time we
great.
listen to the USC band album, like I come away more certain that Sing 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 is the best of those of the band songs.
Yeah, it's a great song. It sucks that they got rid of it. Playing that for homecoming with the big band, with everybody, all the alums coming back, the big alumni band. If I gotta add another one in here, In the Stone.
That's a good one.
When we got married at our wedding, the band came. We were very fortunate to have the band there. We loved it. It was one of the highlights of our lives, right? I wanted to make sure that they sang, that they played In the Stone. And it was like one of those things of like, obviously we're going to play In the Stone. Like they're not going to not
Like,
play
duh.
In the Stone. Yeah. So In the Stone, I would put on that list too. If we're talking about school songs, I think it's Tribute. I think it's Tribute for me.
You're
gonna go Conquest?
Conquest. I'm going Conquest.
I think Conquest. Okay, the peak for Conquest is the highest. So
Yes.
when, like, in the sense of like Conquest after a big game, and there's a Trojan conducting the band.
Nothing
Peak.
better.
Pre-game in a big game, very big game, like one in which I guess this is hypothetical at this point.
Night
one in which
game,
in
full
which the
Coliseum,
Coliseum is full before the
echoing.
game starts.
Yes.
Again, hypothetical. Peak Conquest. If you get a big beat the whatevers in there, wonderful, love it. So to me, Conquest is sort of contingent on the situation to be the best. It's obviously a great song. Like I love Conquest.
Yes, Conquest. Again, I will argue for Conquest.
Yeah.
I think that Tim in LA is on to something with Neocon,
Yeah.
The Offspring. One of the great tragedies of the way that the Coach O era ended is losing Neocon, because they stopped playing it. But like Neocon predated Coach O, and I'm totally with you. Just an absolute banger of a song.
I would have been tempted to have a bad head coach to keep the song.
Yeah,
Mind you, SC.
got a bet. I mean, that's we've litigated that.
Yeah, we
Plenty of
know how
times.
that went. To be fair, Sark is a playoff coach.
I mean, this is true.
So, all right. You pick a superlative out of your cup. What do you got?
Let's go with most likely to break out in 2025. That's submitted by Jessica.
Awesome.
Robot.
Thanks for the suggestion, Jessica, over on Discord. I think this is the tough one. I think there's a lot of different options. Where do you start to go?
I agree that this is a tough one, in part because I think that like there's a lot of players that we would already say were sort of on the verge of breakout, but maybe not had the full breakout. Like, I think that there's a world where like Mekhi Lemon is a household like name for like across national football right now, where he's not.
Do we have to define breakout here?
A little bit. Like, are we coming from nowhere to
Like
something?
what's a breakout player?
Or is it coming from like contributor to star?
Because
I would say
I
contributor
don't think
to star.
Lemon qualifies as a breakout player.
From a USC perspective, certainly, I think that's
No.
fair.
Yeah,
that
I don't think
he wouldn't.
I don't think he qualifies.
Okay, then in that case, I will say, if we're going to allow for transfers being breakout stars, then Wayman Jordan. the JUCO transfer.
Yeah,
Who,
I'll give you that.
Is he a breakout star if he was the best player in junior college last year?
Sure.
I guess so, but certainly not on the national big USC stage. I'll go Wayman Jordan. I like the answers from Mama Murdy and Finding on MC in the chat about Jaden Mayava. I think that if that is the case, then great things have happened for USC. But I'm less certain about Mayava being a great player than I am Wayman Jordan.
I am going to dig deep into what is a breakout player. And to me, it's someone who breaks out from where they are and takes a big step forward. I have a hard time calling Jade Mayava a breakout player because he already is the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
I think he's someone who can be most improved, but to me, breakout and most improved are different things. We're splitting hairs, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with someone like Jide Abasiri.
Oh, I like that.
I think he could be your breakout guy.
That would be very good too.
We saw him get run last year as a rotational defensive lineman. I think it's going to be hard for him because obviously there's, Keyshawn Silver and all those guys that came in the transfer portal. Jakeem Stewart that is around there. We don't know exactly which spot he's going to play. He's probably going to move around a bit. But Jide Abasiri is going to be one for me.
I like it.
The other one that I thought that could sort of have an interesting go of it here is somebody like I don't know. Is Desmond Stevens too much of a breakout already?
No, I think that Desmond Stevens and like Marcellus Williams are really good candidates here because Desmond Stevens, as much as like we know him, I don't even know, like he wasn't necessarily a
here's a
starter
comparison
for USC last year.
If college football was like European football and there were chants, would Desmond Stevens already have a chant? I would say no. No,
he would not have a chant.
He wouldn't have a chant yet.
Yeah. But I think that's why
I think that could qualify you.
Yeah.
For if you would already have a chance, you can't have a breakout
player.
Yeah.
So like in that sense, I think Cam Fountain, Braylon Shelby are options.
Yeah, Fountain's a good pick. Yeah.
Prophet Brown is actually a really interesting option if he ends up being the starting nickel, filling some big shoes with the needing to have USC deal with the loss of Jalen Smith in terms of his presence there down near the line of scrimmage, sort of playing that role. So
right,
yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one. I'll pick out of here. What do we got? Trojan with the third greatest highlight reel.
So not Reggie Bush.
And not Adoree.
And not Adoree Jackson.
Yes.
Okay. I will argue for Juju Smith-Schuster simply because Juju Smith-Schuster's highlight reel includes the stiff arm play on the Utah cornerback. Which is still, to me, the greatest highlight in the history of USC football, and I include all of the Reggie Bush stuff. As much as the stop on a dime against Fresno State is absolutely incredible, it does not fill me with a cackling glee the way that that Juju pointing. Almost like a come here and then shoving it just incredible. So I'm going to give it to Juju.
What our good friends Matt would do. Come here.
That's exactly what that play. Yes.
Yeah. I think highlight reel implies multiple things. If we want to talk about the greatest individual highlights. Yeah, I think you can put that in the bag.
Well, and I think Caleb Williams and Sam Darnold have something to say here.
Yeah, absolutely. I am gonna go. I'm so torn. Tim in LA says Mike Williams got to be big Mike Williams. I think that's a shout. I'm having a hard time saying it's not OJ.
I mean, that's
Like,
fair. I wasn't thinking that far back.
Arguably
sure.
the biggest run in the history of the program against UCLA in 67. In the 68 Rose Bowl, he has that incredible long touchdown run. Multiple plays. He was kind of like, he was the first highlight reel guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm having a hard time picking anybody else. I think you can put Marquise Lee there. I think you could put an RJ Soward in there. You could definitely put Mike Williams in there. You can put Taylor Mays in there for all of his big bone-crushing hits.
Mm-hmm.
Ray Malaluga could be in there.
Yeah, Taylor Mays would be a pretty good shot there.
Very niche answer. Desmond Reed.
Yeah, very niche.
One of the greatest fourth quarter players in USC history, strictly because of what he did in the fourth quarter in games in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
I was convinced. I'm like, this dude's the next Heisman.
Well, he might have been.
He could have been. He could have been if not for, Charlie Weiss in his grass.
I was going to say this is a down in the weeds pick, but then I stopped myself because it's too soon.
Yeah. That's not good footage.
Joe Long in the chat makes Anthony Davis has to be mentioned for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, Anthony Davis's single game highlight reel from the Notre Dame comeback is arguably
the craziest thing. Everyone, I think that the instant thing to think about Anthony Davis is the kickoff return against Notre Dame in 74.
Mm-hmm.
But it was his Notre Dame game in 72 was the one that he had 6 touchdowns in.
Yeah. Any other player and any other team, that would be their greatest individual achievement, the 6 touchdown game. And instead with AD, it's like, that was his third best highlight.
Yeah. Crazy. And then,
wild.
Angry Trojan says Sam Bam Cunningham. Yeah. Right over the top. What do you got?
Okay. We're doing most likely to be the 2032 NFL MVP. I mean, this is an easy answer in my opinion.
Okay, can I put a little caveat on this?
Okay.
Most likely to win to be the 2032 MVP, not named Caleb Williams.
Okay.
Because I think Caleb Williams is the obvious answer there, right?
Yes.
Just because quarterback, if SC's going to have a great alum in the NFL, most likely that could win an MVP, most likely would be a quarterback. So yeah, it's obviously Caleb, but beyond Caleb, where do you go? 2032.
That's tough because it's 2032 is 7 years on.
Yeah.
So realistically, anyone who's
8 seasons away.
Anyone who's currently in the NFL right now,
it'd be hard pressed.
We might be timing them out already because I was thinking Drake London will already be in his 30s. I wouldn't be able to put any of
Caleb would be in his prime.
The running back, Caleb again becomes the really easy answer. So we're sort of looking at guys who are currently on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I could say I could stick with my Wayman Jordan pick if I wanted to. I that's probably not the way to go because running backs are not as valued in the league today.
Yeah. Ron Murdy agrees with you.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who has NFL MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, what if it's somebody like Jacoby Lane? What if it's or Mekhi Lemon, something like that?
I could see it.
A wide receiver, I think, if it's not a quarterback,
mm-hmm.
Then it could be a wide receiver, I suppose.
Yeah. I think Jakeem Stewart would be another one just because we're talking about sheer talent.
Yeah. In terms of at a position that is capable of commanding that award. Yeah.
I'm going to give you one. Maybe it's a bit of a long shot. Sort of pun intended. Eric Gentry.
That would be very fun.
Could you see him as a defensive MVP?
No, because he's not you. But here's the thing: to have a position, and I still don't know what his position.
This is the thing about Eric Gentry's NFL career. It's one of two things for me. He never plays it down, or he's a multi-year Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
Like, to me, there's no, I mean, outside of like injuries playing a factor, right? Like, we're going to ignore the injury thing because which is hard to do with the Reece James of USC football, right? Like,
yeah.
But if we ignore the injury stuff, Eric Gentry is either someone who gets the NFL and just makes plays and is so impactful that like he defies being a weirdly shaped guy who doesn't fit a traditional position, and becomes the unicorn that he is, or the NFL in its rigid, segmented way just has no use for him. Unfortunately, it's going to be one or the other for me.
Yeah, and I'm still not certain. I love Eric Gentry as a player. I think he's just a wonderful football player. But from an NFL perspective, I struggle to see where he plays. And until I have that answered, I'm just not going to necessarily project out a ton for him. But defensively, Kamari Ramsey could be.
It's a good shout.
Interesting.
It's a good shout.
Potential.
Yeah. Could see it. Could see a world where he's the best safety in the league. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Next one. Most likely to go pro in a different sport. I think we can include former Trojans here. I'm going to exclude guys who have played a different sport. So no picking Jack Del Rio. No picking Greg Gunther or Dory Jackson.
I was going to say, I can't pick a Dory Jackson as a track star.
Yeah, no Sultan McCullough. Just because those seem to be obvious, right?
Okay. You know what? Eric Gentry could be a very fun volleyball player. I was going to say soccer player. Sometimes guys with his dimensions are just like so weird on the soccer pitch that...
Is he a center back or a center forward?
I was thinking center forward.
I think it would a little Eric Crouchy. Eric Crouchy, Peter Crouch?
Peter Crouch, yeah.
Makai
Lemon, he's built like one of those like a winger, sort of football player. I mean, a soccer player. I could see that.
Peter Crouch also 6'7", by the way, so it works.
Jacoby Lane would be a hell of a forward, potentially.
I could see that. I'm gonna give you one. How about I'm gonna pick a basketball player to move to football. How about Javon Jefferson?
Wasn't he like going to play football?
Was he?
Why? Or there was somebody.
I mean, his career in general was weird because, like, I always thought he was better than OJ Mayo at SC, at least in that one season. But then, like, he had like off the field issues. I think he like went pro in Europe at one point. But like, couldn't you see him as a tight end? Like a damn good tight end.
6'8", 215.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Like how everyone says like LeBron could have been the best tight end in the history of man.
Yeah.
I could see it with like Javon Jefferson. I'm having a hard time finding another basketball to Trojan that would work in that way. Like I love Taj Gibson. I can't see Taj Gibson as a great tight end for some reason. Not in the same way.
It doesn't have the body for it.
No. But if we're going to pick football player to play a different sport, though, let's go with Grudegood as a rugby player.
I like that because I was about to say, like, I think Cam Fountain would be a hell of a rugby player.
Okay.
Got that size, quickness, burst.
Brandon Hancock as a rugby player.
Yeah. Oh, he looked like a freaking rugby player.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. What's your next one?
Let's see. We've got most underappreciated Trojan, and I'm going to put the caveat on this of
current
outside of John David Booty, because we've had that discussion many a time.
You know when someone can be so underrated that they become overrated by everyone saying that they're underrated?
Yes.
And vice versa.
That's John David Booty at this point.
I feel like there's a little bit of, I have always been the person to beat the drum for Kevin Ellison, right? I don't think Kevin Ellison qualifies because I think real ones know and appreciate Kevin Ellison.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And just to that point, like, I think that Taylor Mays is someone that got sort of labeled as being overrated too much, that he's not appreciated again like he should. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Mostly in comparison to Ellison, right? Like, they were both great. I think Ellison was a better player, but like, they were both great. I think Booty obviously is a great pick. How about Deontay Burnett?
I like that.
Ron Murray says
literally
Deontay
just
Burnett.
said
Yeah.
Deontay Burnett
Yeah.
in the chat. So
Deontay Burnett, someone who had big impact, caught the greatest pass we've ever seen thrown in our lives. Triple coverage from Sam Darnold, minute to go in the Rose Bowl. Had big moments in big games.
because Deontay Burnett was like the classic.
He's not going to be on your top 10.
He wasn't. He was never going to be your like best player ever. He was never going to be like an NFL star. He was sort of in that very, very, very good football player, a college football player mode.
Yeah.
But was always going to be limited to that sort of box, but he maximized himself in that box.
Yeah,
and I think it's easy to forget that like Deontay Burnett, when he came in to USC, was not.
He was like a 3-star guy.
He was like a very low 3-star guy. Like he was an afterthought almost. Taking a flyer on him, and he made one of the most important plays in USC history. So
and if you're putting together a listicle of the 10 best USC receivers of all time, you're not picking Deontay Burnett.
But if Deontay Burnett, that is a reflection of USC's absurd.
It's a reflection
history.
of USC's thing, and I think there's also a reflection of like the inherent bias of we're always going to pick the biggest, fastest, flashier, stronger player. And that's where like somebody like, say, Michael Pittman, I think it's definitely picked over Deontay Burnett, but I think you can make an argument that Deontay Burnett had a better career. Mm-hmm. They were very close. I'm not going to wage that argument right now, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm if you're ranking your all-time favorite or best USC receivers, you're probably putting Pittman over Burnett, but Burnett a little underappreciated there. Who else you got?
I'm sort of trying to keep it on like this year's team or last year's team, like the current Trojans. I want to give a shout out to like guys like like Gavin Meyer. I think that USC needed different like body types than they had on the defensive line this past year, but I still maintain that what Nate Clifton and Gavin Meyer did, given their limitations in the Deontay Burnett sense of like their ceilings were always going to come up against their ceilings, but I think they were brushing up against their ceilings the entire season, and I think that the numbers don't really speak fairly about the job that they did for USC in the middle. Like, it sucks that the results were so poor, because I think those guys were
they had their moments.
They had their moments, and they held down the line, and they, I think they did a really, really admirable job. So I think they're underappreciated for what they did for USC when USC basically had nobody else.
I'll give you one. Jalen Smith.
Well, I was going to say Jalen Smith just because, like, we should be talking about Jalen Smith like one of the best DBs that USC has had
in a while,
this century. And
But he probably doesn't make a top 10 list on that.
No.
In part because SC has had so many good DBs.
Yes, and in part because he played in defenses that were not, like, it's hard to be a great player on a defense that is just generally not performing well, because your numbers are not going to speak to it. A Grinch defense. If you put Jalen Smith on a good Pete Carroll defense, I think we're talking about him as one of the best corners the USC has ever had, like, bar none. Certainly one of the best DBs of versatility of being able to play nickel and outside corner and all that. Like, I think Jalen Smith, the talent level, the understanding of the game, just pure gamerness of him, supremely underrated throughout his career. Glad that he finally got to like really prove himself, but still sort of limited in terms of the recognition that he got. I hate projecting out to NFL because you just never know with players, but it would not shock me in the slightest if he went on to have one of the better careers of a USC DB.
I could see it. But also like the NFL is just so random. It really is. All right, let's go to the next one. I've got, what is this? Most likely to get penalized for celebrating with the band, and this one comes from our friend ChatGPT.
The answer is Jacoby Lane.
I think
that's
the
answer
pick.
is 1,000,000% Jacoby Lane.
I could see Jacoby Lane doing was it Terrell Owens, T.O., that grabbed the pom-poms?
I could Jacoby Lane would grab the pom-poms. Jacoby Lane would jump up into wherever the band is and grab grab a trombone and just start like blowing on it in the end zone, like when the band comes down onto the field and they like crowd around the end zone before halftime. Yeah. Like if he scored a touchdown in the back of the end zone, where they were
getting
right
the
before,
cymbals?
like he's gonna go get the cymbals. He's gonna do something wild and amazing, and then get penalized for it because we can't have any fun on a football field. So 1,000,000% that is my answer. Certainly of the current team, I think we could maybe explore previous Trojans, but like I
could see Mal Luga doing something like that.
Yeah.
I could see him running the sideline, taking off his helmet and grabbing a clarinet's helmet and putting it on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
guess
what's
Juju also, I think, would have
yes,
been that
Juju would be high on that list.
Yeah.
What do you got?
All right.
Your next one.
We've got I got two. Most aura. The Trojan with the most aura.
Okay. Current and past.
Current and past. Past, I will go to bat for Matt Leinart. I just think the aura that Matt Leinart had, I don't think it's beatable. I think it's unbeatable.
More than Reggie?
More than Reggie, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know that I agree with that. I think that if you're looking at SC quarterbacks with aura, I think that Leinart's the guy there. Yeah. But
I'll go to bat for Leinart.
I have a hard time finding anyone better than Reggie there.
I mean, that's fair. He had a lot of aura. But
Adoree? Aura.
Aura, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, the difference for me between Adoree and Reggie and Leinart is that, like, Adoree and Reggie were legitimately the greatest athletes on any field that they ever walked onto.
Yeah.
And, like, that wasn't Leinart. And he
did
still
I ever tell
had that
my
aura.
story of seeing Adoree play Narbonne? It was a Narbonne-Sarah game at Narbonne in 2013. So it was senior year. And I walked away from that thinking, I don't know if I want this guy. Because in that game, he had 2 kick returns for a touchdown, including one that he flipped into the end zone. So, flipped in the end zone and hurdled. But he also, I felt like he took so many plays off. And in hindsight, I'm like, how stupid are you? He was playing every freaking down, and he's playing against guys who have a minuscule amount of talent in comparison to him.
Yeah.
Even on his team, you know what I mean? Go watch Messi play for Inter Miami. He's taking plays off to conserve his energy to ball out on the other ones. You know what I mean? Obviously, you want Juan Soto hustling down the line. But, is Juan Soto not hustling down the line could be the reason that the Mets don't win the division? No. You know what I mean? Let's pick another one. What do we got here? Trojan you'd most want to be stuck on an elevator with. That's a damn good one.
Ooh.
sneaky one. Stevie Tuikolavatu.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I could talk to Stevie
you could
T.
just chat with Stevie T like a normal human, like
100%.
Just what like he was. My favorite thing about Stevie T is somebody who has like social anxiety and all that kind of stuff. And in interview settings and in those settings, I often struggled with the anxiety of talking to strangers, let alone like players. Like I think that was very difficult for me at times.
Mm-hmm.
Stevie T was one of those guys you walked up to and he just made you feel like you were family already. Like you just sit down and just chat. Sorry, West Texas Mike, certainly not Jay Toya.
Tim in LA says got to be Zach Banner because the elevator rap.
Yeah, the Zach Banner.
That was one of the things I thought about Zach Banner writing this thing down. I just love Stevie T. I love Stevie T. I think he'd be behind that list. Who else would you got?
Who else would I? It's tough because you got to have somebody who's like who you could have a conversation with, but wouldn't like be too chatty and like annoying.
Right, like I think Lendale would sort of veer into that category.
Yeah, just like be a little bit too much.
I think Jacoby Lane might veer into a little bit of that too much. Like you love the yappiness, but maybe not being stuck in an elevator.
Yeah,
yappiness. You know what I mean?
And I'd want somebody like what I would want is somebody older, like one of the legends that might have a lot of stories. Like I think guys on the current team probably don't have like a lot of good stories to tell because they're too young. Okay.
Sean Cody.
Oh, but that's it. That's
Sean Cody.
Sean Cody. Yes. Yeah. If you were stuck on an elevator for a few hours and you could just like go to Sean Cody, like just chat, like off the record. Let's just talk about the Pete Carroll era. Like that would be incredible.
That would be great. It'd be like LAFD. You can wait a little bit here. you can wait a little bit here. Yeah. What's your next one again?
Okay, we've got a long one. Most likely to set a tailgate keg stand record. This is from Darlene. So the Trojan who would be most likely to set a record doing a keg stand at a tailgate.
Okay. So you need like a Bakhtiari, but Bakhtiari, you go to Colorado? Where'd he go? Packers guy.
Yeah. Did he go to Colorado?
I don't remember. Okay. I'm thinking, is it Clay Matthews?
Oh, that's good.
I think Clay Matthews would be a decent shout there.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw. No, I don't know. I just popped into my head like someone like David Bueller, like the freaking kicker who wore a neck roll. Like I don't even know. He just seems like a guy who'd just be game for it and like be very competitive about it.
Sneaky pick?
Yeah.
Max Brown.
Yeah.
Sneaky pick.
I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I'm going with with Clay Matthews. Like absolutely, you can just see him with his hair just like dangling down over him, and then he gets up. And he's like, "All right, we're doing it again."
I imagine Brian Cushing would be pretty intense in that
Cushing too,
scenario as well.
Yes. Kalooks.
Yes.
Yeah. I absolutely could see it. All right, next one. Most likely to be USC's head coach in 2050.
Oh, okay.
2050.
2050.
25 years from now. Huh.
Michael Hutchings.
Ooh, that's a good shout. Of the SC related people, I think that is a really good shout. I've got someone who I think would be interesting. I don't know if he would be seen as a prodigal son coming home type deal, but I could see Keaton Slovis being a coach.
I could see that too.
He was sort of nurtured by Kurt Warner. I could see him turning around. Football career doesn't ultimately pan out as a pro, and he gets into coaching. We know JT Danielson is into coaching too.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? Like, I was throwing out the Michael Hutchings because I just had a great respect for his football mind, and I know that he was going into coaching. I didn't realize how far he's come up in coaching already. He's the safeties coach for the Vikings.
Yeah.
This is his second year as the lead position safeties coach.
It's a good shout. Yeah.
And
if he's a safety,
and the safeties
coach for the Vikings.
Minnesota's. So the Vikings led the NFL in interceptions, pass defenses, opponent fourth down conversion, and interceptions per attempt. And that was partly with the safeties. Like, that's pretty good.
That means he's probably 5-10 years away from being a coordinator in the NFL, maybe.
Yeah,
given how long it takes guys to get there, and then hopefully not that long after that.
Yeah,
you could see it.
I think the timeline's right, to be honest.
Yeah, because you got to think. Okay, if he finished playing in 2016, 2017, whatever it was. So that was 8 years ago, right? So we're adding 25 years. So we're looking at 32 years ago. 32 years ago was 1993.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be the equivalent in 2050 of Johnny Morton coaching today.
Which
would
be I mean, maybe even on the older side, depending on the trends.
Because that's the thing. Like, I think the age does get a little tough there. If anyone on MC says Taylor Mays, Taylor Mays would be interesting. Taylor Mays would be 41 years removed from his playing days at SC. Jesus. Which sounds insane.
Absolute
insane.
I'm not okay with.
And so 41 years removed, we're talking about 84. That's Jack Del Rio. If Jack Del Rio was coaching today, that's the equivalent of Taylor Mays.
It's just funny because I would age out Jack Del Rio.
I would too. That's the weird part, right? Yeah. What's your next superlative?
Okay. We've got best yapper.
Jacoby Lane. Lendale. I think Clay Matthews could be on there.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Jones.
Maybe too.
Okay, what are we? First of all,
I view yapper as like shit talker, right?
It could be. If we're talking shit talker, then yes. I think that could be it. If we're talking about yapper as in just like someone who could just talk your ear off, then it could be like a Stevie T type guy, right? I like Jacoby Lane for this, especially now.
Mm-hmm.
Jacoby Lane or Lendale White?
I think I'd go Lendale.
Okay, you go Lendale.
Yeah.
He can yap with the best of them. Absolutely. Let's go to the next one. I've got most likely to win the Heisman Trophy in 2026.
So next year.
Yes. Is it Hassan Longstreet? Is it Wayman Jordan?
Wayman Jordan's a good shout.
I mean,
because he's a redshirt sophomore this year. He could leave for the NFL if he had a big enough year, but I don't know that that's necessarily.
Maiava would be a senior. So there's a world in which it is Maiava.
The reality is, if Jaden Maiava is USC's starter next year, then I will assume that means that he has done well enough to justify Longstreet not being in there yet. So I think that's when it comes down to it, who is capable of winning the Heisman? It has to be narrowed down to quarterback, running back, wide receiver. Yeah, running back
50% chance a quarterback,
and then
30% chance. No, more like 75% chance a quarterback, 20% chance a running back, 5% chance a receiver, right?
I would reverse receiver and running back at this point. Like I think
You
that
think a receiver's
I think
more
that
likely?
receivers have more
Okay.
are taking on more.
So is there a world in which it is Mekhi Lemon? You would be a senior. Jacoby Lane would be a senior. Could be one of those two. Lemon returned kicks last year at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it. I could see a world.
Who was the last running back to win the Heisman?
It's Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry in 2015.
Is it? Yeah.
Yep. Since then, it's been quarterbacks except for Devontae Smith and Travis Hunter.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating how it's been all quarterbacks. What's your next pull of the old bucket?
All right. Oh, I got two again. Greatest name.
Frosty Rucker.
Frosty Rucker. I like it. Is there some? I mean,
Frosty Rucker.
There have been some really great names.
Jabari Ruffin.
Jabari Ruffin was good.
Love that one. I think RJ Soward sounds
that's fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
But mostly in like a TV way. Like you could see like RJ Soward being the quarterback on Friday Night Lights kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
John David Booty, great. Because of booty, you know. It's another word for butt.
Well, on this year's team, Willy Washer is gonna
Willy
just
Washer.
take the cake.
Willy Washer.
Yeah.
Yeah. This year's team the roster has great names. King Miller, Jack Stupin. There's some good
Wait,
names on here.
What?
Jack Stupin.
Who's Jack Stupin?
He's what I assume to be a walk-on quarterback because he's wearing number 29.
Are you looking at the roster right now?
Yes. Number 29 from Newport Beach, quarterback. That's a walk-on. Yeah.
Let me.
That's a guy who will be going pro in something other than sports and most
Jack
likely
Stupin.
commercial real estate.
Jack Stupin from Tustin.
It's going to be funny when I click on it and his major is real estate.
Hank Pepper, the long
Hank
snapper.
Pepper is fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
Ryan Quintanar.
I think John Ray Reed is. I really enjoyed John Ray Reed.
I like that. Cash Amos.
Cash Amos is a good one.
Mm-hmm. Radumanu Bulabalavu. Great name. Colby Pepe is a great name.
Still struggling to say that one.
Joe in the chat says Boubacar Traore is Notre Dame's best name. Boubacar Traore is that's a CDM for Brighton.
1,000,000%.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Prophet Brown, great.
Prophet Brown, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
MC says Bubba Smith. Sultan McCullough says Ron Murray.
Sultan McCullough's good. Yeah, there's a lot of.
How about Abdul
Malik McLean?
No. Sultan Abdul Malik.
Oh.
He wore number 44 when I was a kid at defensive end. I thought that was a great name. Okay. And I always loved Malifo McKenzie.
Malifo McKenzie, that is a great name. Yes.
Great name. All right, next one I got most injury plagued.
The answer is Trey Madden, and I don't want to talk
Is it
about
Trey Madden?
It's Trey Madden, and I don't want to
Kevin
talk about
Arbett.
it.
Kevin Arbett's 2
Desmond
season-ending
Reed.
injuries in both years SC won national championships. All right, I'm just gonna rifle off the rest of mine, and then we can go through the rest of the years rapid fire.
Okay.
Most likely to succeed in a 2-minute drill.
Caleb Williams.
Matt Leinart.
That's fair.
Craziest USC butterfly effect. Huh. I've got one. what if Caleb Williams leads Oklahoma on their game-winning drive in Bedlam in November of 2021? Oklahoma wins that game. They go to the Big 12 championship game. Lincoln Riley not available
because they
SC doesn't want to wait. They go and they hire someone like Matt Campbell. How does Matt Campbell affect things? SC never gets Caleb Williams. They have Matt Campbell and Jackson Dart. Does Jackson Dart win a Heisman at SC? I don't know. I mean, realistically, Caleb Williams probably wins one at Oklahoma, right? Like, I
like Dan's JT Daniels injury. JT Daniels gets injured. Keaton Slovis takes over. Keaton Slovis takes over that job. JT Daniels transfers, goes to Georgia where he wins the job and then gets injured again.
Yeah.
And then creates the opportunity for his injury there. Creates the opportunity for Georgia to win the national title with what's-his-face. Meanwhile, USC has Keaton Slovis, but then Keaton Slovis himself gets injured and then comes back and is never quite the same. Mm-hmm. And then he transfers to BYU. And then, I just think there's
What if it's the Keaton Slovis injury at Iowa?
I mean, that too.
I mean, against Iowa in the Holiday Bowl.
Because USC loses wins.
If his arm never gets all messed up, and freshman year Keaton Slovis, which was the best year for Keaton Slovis, continues to progress, does Clay get fired? You never know. You never know. But the last one I just throw in here is Herschel Dennis. If he doesn't get hurt and Chauncey Washington plays some school, does Reggie and Lendale have to split carries as freshmen and not have the same sort of careers as they go? I don't know.
Maybe.
All right. Rifle through yours really, really quick. Rapid fire.
Okay. We've got toughest looking. That's
Taylor Mays.
Taylor Mays, yes.
Yeah.
We've got most likely to host $1 million sub podcast. Is it fair to say Max Brown, or is that cheating?
Ooh, Max Brown is good. That's a good pick. I'm going to say Juju.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. Also, the answer is Amon-Ra St. Brown, but that's also beside the point because I'm pretty sure he already does that.
That's fair.
Best building on campus.
Mud.
Mud is great. Mud makes you feel like you're...
Mud looks cool. Best building to have a class in? VKC.
Yeah, I think VKC is
centrally located and nice, newish feeling.
I always liked having classes at GFS as well, personally. Okay. Historic Trojan we most want to watch play live.
Morley Drury.
My answer is Lloyd Thomas. I'll give you a long explanation for why, but we don't have time for that today. But Lloyd Thomas.
Arnett or Morley Drury for me.
I like it.
That all you got?
Yes.
That's it.
Yep.
All right. That was great. We'll do more superlatives as we go on. Be sure to fire away your superlatives. Want to run through the mailbag and go through these mailbag questions, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
You've got mail.
From Discord, SJ in Santa Barbara. Who will put up bigger numbers? Jaden Mayava with interceptions or the defensive line with sacks?
God, I hope it's the defensive line with sacks.
Here's the thing. It could be, and that could still not have any. Like, if the D-line gets 35 sacks, there's still a lot of room for Jaden Mayava to play with, you know?
The existence of this question is giving me heartburn, SJ, so the answer must be D-line sacks.
Yeah. Tim in LA says, at the start of the 2035 season, what conference will USC be in?
USC will be in the Western Conference that exists in the reorganized NCAA.
Yes, they'll be in the Fox West.
Yes, the Fox West.
Yeah. Which conference has the most schools? The Fox and the ESPN conferences have the same number of schools.
The Fox and the ESPN conferences will each have 2 divisions,
24.
and those divisions will the Fox will have like West and Midwest, and then the ESPN will have Southeast and Southwest, and
And will USC have had another Heisman by then? Yeah, I think
yes.
Dominic Davis. Does Dominic Davis have a child? Because if he does, and if he had a child, potentially while in school, he could have snuck a Dominic Davis Jr. in there.
USC has proven that it is capable of producing a Heisman winner with regularity.
Mm-hmm.
It is just one of those schools that will always have enough eyes on it. So I will say yes.
Yeah. Email from Tony. Michael, Alicia, this is Tony from the Nora, PA. I hate to hear that this Notre Dame game it's about to end. I grew up hating Notre Dame because of how they were supposed to be America's team back then. And they ran those tape delay games every Sunday morning with Lindsey Nelson calling the game. I hated it. I grew up to love college football better than the pros because of all the rivalries and the history of the sport. Like you guys said, if you're so worried about traveling, why in the world did you join the Big Ten Conference? Of course, we all know why. More money, more money, more money. The Xavier Griffin situation is a tough one. I don't see how you expect the top high school young men to not enjoy the process of recruiting. I heard this on a podcast where you let them go on these trips until high school season starts. Then they must shut down the process. That might be the way to do it. Fight on. Yeah, I think it's a nice middle ground.
Yeah, but increasingly it just looks like it was just the weird timing because Xavier Griffin committed to USC before the new regime came in with the Chad Bowden GM, and Chad Bowden's regime has a blanket policy about not allowing visits when you are commit. Everybody who's committed since then has committed knowing that was the case. Yeah. And Xavier Griffin committed before it, so he never agreed to that sort of understanding, and so that just sort of, so it's not necessarily the policy that messed up here. It's just the timing of it all, and it sucks, but it's also a reality.
Yeah. Okay. From the chat, Dan says Superlative most likely to become the mayor of LA. That's a very good question.
I mean, is it Matt Leinart?
I'm not going to answer that.
Okay, so just a quick update because this literally just came out from Ryan Karchi about the USC Notre Dame rivalry. This is from like sources that are involved in the negotiations that USC has offered one more season through fall of 2026. And that USC leaders agree the best course forward for its century-old rivalry with Notre Dame would be to continue their arrangement one season at a time. Anything else would be, quote, a strategically bad decision, a USC source said. To which I say, if that is truly what USC wants, then I don't blame Notre Dame for saying that's insane.
Yeah.
Because Notre Dame has to feel like Notre Dame can't afford to just be on a year to year. You can't.
It would
that's
need
not
to at
how
least
it works.
be 2 years. To the home and home part.
You would have to do the home and home element. Like I don't think 1 year at a time is a reasonable way forward. I think 2 years at a time would be the shortest amount of time, and I would argue that doing it 4 years at a time is probably the sweet spot.
4 years with a 2 year notice of opt out.
Yes, I think that's
or 2 year notice of not re up.
That would be perfectly fair. Doing a 1 year at a time thing, I get why
it's unrealistic.
I get why USC would want to do that, but that is so unrealistic.
You're treating it like a neutral site game at that point, which
is
I understand, but
that's not reasonable.
It's not reasonable.
No.
Yeah. All right. Tim in LA says, you ever look at Scott Ware in the eyes? It could be the toughest looking. He looked like a killer in the you want him on your team kind of way. Yes. The only thing I didn't like about Scott Ware, the big ass wristbands he wore in his elbows. I know that was the look back then. Not for me. All right. so much more coming your way. Probably about the rivalry next week. So we'll get to that then.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. Send us your emails, your phone number, not your phone number, your phone calls, your phone voicemails to our phone number, 818-643-7227. Call in, give us your thoughts, give us some superlatives. We'll go forward and maybe make this like a once a month thing or something. I don't know. I had fun. I hope you guys had fun.
Yeah.
Let us know if you had fun as well. And we'll see you next Wednesday, the 28th. Until then, we will see you.
See ya.
See ya.